Thank you, Jeff. Welcome to the first meeting of 2022. And we will start out with our new Vice President, Sam.
All right. Let me share my screen. You guys see it?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So been working with George, like I mentioned just a moment ago, to update the calendar. George, I will say I shot you an email. We are missing the garden stars because I know that you had mentioned that there was one coming up, I believe, just this next coming week. Is that correct?
That's my fault. Yeah, I didn't put it in there. It's for the Tuesday, the 11th.
I thought so. So Tuesday, the 11th, just giving it a verbal shout out. I will get it added onto the calendar, is going to be garden stars at Norfolk Botanical Gardens. Outside of that, hold on, guys. The images are kind of over my whole screen. All right, then on Saturday the 15th, we have Saturday, Sunday. There was an event on the 15th for the Boy Scouts that they actually had to move. So if anybody did RSVP and agree to that, I know we did have a couple of people who had already RSVP'd. They are actually going to join us now going forward to Friday the 21st at Cornland for Corn Watch. So the Boy Scout troop is going to come out there. They're working on their merit badge. They are going to have completed some prerequisites when they come out to join up with us. They are going to be looking for different constellations, any objects we can find for them in the night sky for viewing through the telescopes, of course, and the moon as always. And George is going to handle helping them out with the merit badge process. Thank you for that, George. Then on the 22nd, we have Skywatch at Northwest River Park, tentatively on the calendar for that Saturday. Going for the next week, Friday the 28th, back at Cornwatch. On the 29th, overnight into the 30th, we have Night Watch out at Chip Oaks. Going forward to February on the 3rd, we will be having our club meeting. Fingers crossed that we are able to be back in TCC by that point in time. And then on February the 4th, we have Corn Watch again. I know it looks like there's a lot in a row there, but it's just kind of how it fell for this year. And then jumping forward to the 12th Saturday, that will be Saturday, Sunday. And then that evening at 5:30 p.m., there is going to be a Girl Scout Star viewing event. On Saturday, the 19th, we have Skywatch at Northwest River Park. On Friday, the 25th, we have Corn Watch out at Cornland again. The 26th and 27th, again, overnight night watch at Chip Oaks. And then that takes us forward all the way into March. So that is January and February. I do want to just give a shout out, while not on our calendar, I do think it's worth mentioning. In regards to the Kalamazoo Astronomical Society. We've talked about this a couple of times in other meetings, but the deadline for signing up is coming because it's going to be starting on Saturday, January the 15th. They're doing a 5-part lecture series for amateur astronomy. You get a little certificate when you're done. Some really cool topics they're going to be covering throughout the 5 different series. They all fall on Saturdays every 2 weeks. And they sent us an email letting us know that this may not occur again for the next few years. So kind of get in there while the getting is good before it goes away. So if it's something that anyone is interested in, you just need to go to kasonline.org and then amastro.html will take you directly to the page that you need. And you scroll to the bottom of that list of events and you'll see the registration form right there to sign up. It is absolutely free. And I think it looks kind of exciting, even if it's just a refresher or something fun for those who may not need that level of education. It still looks like it could be a good event for everybody. And it's all online, so very easily accessible. And that was it.
Samantha, got a question out here.
Yes, sir. Oh,
I kind of had a computer malfunction and got in here kind of late. According to Botanical Gardens, they have garden stars scheduled for January 11th and then again on February 8th.
They do. Me and George have been working on updating the calendar, and that's just kind of, I did speak to that. It has gotten missed, but we will get it updated, I promise. And you are absolutely correct about the dates.
It's my fault. I didn't put it in there. I forgot.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's not an oversight. Thanks.
No, it is happening, and I will get it added on there, I promise.
Thank you for catching that.
And Sam, the reason the events at Skywatch are tentative is because we haven't got the agreement yet from the city. Is that why? Or is that
George?
I didn't hear you. The volume is pretty low on this computer. I didn't hear what you said, Sean.
I said is the reason why the Skywatch event is shown as tentative is because we haven't received the agreement from the city yet, the written agreement. Is that why?
Oh, where is that? Where was
Sorry,
that?
let me back up. This one, the 22nd, George.
I don't know why that's tentative. No, just ignore that.
Okay.
So George, we did have all the permits because when we discussed it, you said you'd already gotten all of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had the
If
dates.
you guys
and I-
didn't know, Megan, I did send her our address. I sent her Rich's address actually, so she could send the check directly to him. But she also said she was going to send the agreement for this coming year. So if someone has a chance to check the mailbox, I don't know if it's going to show up at Richard's house or at the PO box.
Yeah, I have not seen it yet. And Ben checked the PO box earlier this week and sent me everything that was in there, and that wasn't in there. But we'll probably need to check the PO box soon since renewals are still coming in. But I'll let you know when that comes in, since I saw that email where you gave her my address, which is cool.
I figured you'd want that check sent straight to you.
It's much easier that way to come direct, because like the PO box, it could sit there for a month or two, before anyone sees it.
But I don't know if she'll take it upon herself now to send the agreement to you or send it to the mailbox, but it's going to come to one of them.
Yeah.
Keep your eye out for that. I would say, though, we could probably change the calendar to not be tentative since they're sending us the agreement.
Okay, I can update that.
All righty. And I guess that's it for Sam. Thank you. Next, we got Jeff.
I motion that we forgo the reading of the minutes.
I hear a second.
Someone should second that and vote on it, because we shot it down last time and we had to listen to it.
Yeah, that was torture to you.
It
wasn't
was awful.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's only two ayes I hear.
Nay. Aye.
Okay, Jeff Goldstein, I only saw you say nay. So
I said nay.
Yeah, you're the only nay I saw though. I guess we're skipping the minutes this month. All right, moving on then to the treasurer report.
My turn. Treasurer, and of course, assistant treasurer. I'll let you go back to sleep, Emma. All right, let's see. I have a lot of stuff open. So let's look at just a final breakdown of what we did over the year in each of our funds. So we have money, we're financially strong. If you look at, we started the year with a little over $5,000 in the general fund. We brought in 5,000, we spent 3,800. So we have $1,300 more in the general fund than we did coming into the year. That was
Any
because
way you can make that bigger?
Tell me
That's
what
better.
was,
Much
yeah.
better. We can see it now.
Yeah, all right. Bigger is always
I see more money.
more money. That's right. So yeah, we brought in more than we spent. Obviously a good thing. Because we had very strong membership, and we had also a lot of laggards who paid their dues for the 4 years in January. And of course, we do cash accounting here. I ain't messing with accruals. in most of our major expenses, and 800 of that was apparel orders as far as expenses. So typically we spend about $3,000 to run the club each year, and that's about what we did again this year. So we have the membership base to support that. I need about
What happened to the voice?
You froze up entirely.
Stage
for the
fright.
year. We're our scholarships are also looking good. We came into the year with $676 in the scholarship fund. We brought in almost $2,000. Most of that is donations that were just made by members, and then we paid it out. So we are $480 more than we had coming into the year. And Georgie June is the one that's been down. We came in the year with $1,600. The reason we're down, we paid it out last year, so there's the $1,000 expense. The income was $420 because normally we raise that through the raffle. Well, we pushed the raffle out. Some of the money hit from raffle sales has already come in. That's the $420, but there's more ticket sales out there, which will be counted into 2022 books. And so we should be fine. Like, we already have enough to pay out a scholarship in 2022, and we got more that's going to roll in with the raffle. So we are fine on Georgie June, and a lot of the reasons we're fine is because membership has been strong. We had 60 new members join over the course of the calendar year. So right now we sit with 164 on the roster, which is more than usual. Usually it's like, usually in the 120 to 140 range. And then we have people who don't pay. So we got to do the Great Purge, which will be coming in January. So far, I have 42 people who have not paid their dues. So I will send another reminder soon to those people, basically, because it got to the end of the month, and then I will start purging. But we'll still be well over 100. Obviously, because if none of them come in, and there's some people on there, I'm like, yeah, they're going to pay. We get half of those. We're still in a very strong position. We have enough members with just half of that to cover our expenses through the years without dipping into any kind of reserves or going negative. And then we'll probably pick up people, of course, throughout the course of the year. So we are financially just fine. That's all I got. So I closed out the 21 books, and I've started a new just got a new spreadsheet going for 2022. And I can stop sharing now. There it is. Anyone have any questions on that or want to see anything specific for the months? I just thought it'd make sense to go over the year as a whole instead of bringing up the books I normally do.
No, I appreciate that breakdown.
I will say, most of the duties aren't that bad, but man, December was awful because I had 100-something entries into the spreadsheet for people renewing all their dues. It was great. A lot of people paid, but man, that was very onerous. I took a day off work. I took a day off work just to do all the renewals. So
Appreciate that, Rich. I guess no one else has any other questions. Normally we go to Ben. I don't know if he's got anything for the scholarship report this month. I don't think so, but we'll ask. I saw he is here.
I don't have anything. I'm waiting for some numbers.
Okay,
And once we'll do, we'll blast it out.
sounds good. Rolling to the next one then, Bruce with the Alcorn report.
Okay, so I still am holding to my pipe dream of trying to restart the East Coast Star Party at Chip Oaks sometime in 2022. I know I presented my proposal in December of how to do that. A couple of people asked me about it at the annual luncheon. So to recap, I went camping, RV camping at both Chip Oaks and Stone River State Park last year. And I met people from the Chapel Hill, North Carolina Astronomical Society, otherwise known as Chaos, at Staunton River. And I spoke with a representative of the park itself, the Department of Conservation and Recreation, headquartered in Richmond. And they both basically said that they would, support speaking with us about how to possibly approach Chip Oak State Park, about how to possibly move the East Coast Star Party, or whatever we want to call it, to that location for 2022. So if y'all noticed recently on the Facebook page, there was a web page posted from the Department of Conservation and Recreation, headquartered in Richmond, Virginia, that there are now 4 IDA, International Dark Sky Association approved parks. And so there is a growing demand.
Bruce, if you could hear me, you're locked up. Can anyone else hear me?
There he is.
Okay, well, you're back, Bruce. You can
Okay.
talk now.
Okay, so George is holding up the article from the AAA magazine, Out of This World, that talks about, and that's what the cover looks like. It's got the arch out west on it. Anyway, it's a good article. I uploaded it to the Facebook page if you want to read it. Anyway, so I wasn't crazy. I thought I might have been crazy, but I'm crazy to stand outside and freeze in the dark to look at things in the sky. Anyway, so yeah, there's a nice shot of James River State Park, where I believe George and 1 or 2 other people maybe on here tonight visited that park. So anyway, it takes 5 years apparently to certify a state park for IDA dark sky park status, which I don't want to tackle that yet. All I'm trying to hope for is a location at Chip Oaks. I thought about Chesapeake, but it's too bright, it's too busy there. And Chip Oaks is darker anyway, and we already got a good relationship with them. Anyhow, I still want to make good on my threat to set up a Zoom call. I spoke with Samantha at the luncheon about all this, and I guess in December, I proposed that there be like a small committee, hopefully composed of at least myself, Sean, Samantha, and whoever else wants to help with this. Anyhow, and I know George mentioned he's got a relationship with Chip Oaks. So December is pretty busy, and I hope to send that email out. Those folks will see that, and to try to approach those 2 individuals, Jamie Haisnick from Chapel Hill and Stephanie Allen from Staunton River, and we can start brainstorming on this fine software utility about how to go forward with that. With that, I'll take any questions. I'm open to all comers, and I really don't have any Alcor business other than go get your pins. I'm trying to lead from the front for a change by doing globular clusters, but I'm gonna have to wait until the summer because there ain't none now. So yeah, bummer. Anyhow, yep.
Now that the Christmas and New Year's rush and all that business is over with, we can start thinking about getting a committee together. I'd be interested in that. Maybe we could have a small prototype star party in the fall, and then sort of flesh it out later.
Yep, that's what I was thinking, because I'm afraid the Omicron craziness is going to go into the spring. So yep, I think we can probably shoot for the fall, for like a 3 to for the event. Anyway, it's going to take some doing to make this happen. And, you know, the idea here is to not deal with permits at Chip Focus anymore. This would be a park event. So, you know, park, permits wouldn't, all of that wouldn't be required.
Hey, Bruce.
Yep.
I wasn't paying real close attention. Have you guys approached the Northwest River Park about doing a star party there?
No.
Because they have camping facilities there as well.
Yeah.
Locked up again. Or you're really thinking, I don't know.
I don't think he's locked up. I think he's just thinking about it.
Go fund me for Bruce Powers' new ISP.
Well, anyway, so yeah, I don't. It Cox, man. They're not great in Norfolk. Anyhow, yeah. I don't know. We'd go Northwest as well, but hell, the last night watch we had to kick the horses out, so I don't know where we could be horse free before.
Another possible. George and I did a outreach down about somewhere in North Carolina. I can't remember where it was, George. It was down there on highway on 168. Remember we went there? I think it was some kind of a scout thing.
Yeah, it was a Boy Scout thing.
Yeah, and it was right around the time when Kent said he wasn't going to do any more East Coast star parties at the time. And I know initially we were thinking about trying to get a hold of that. It wasn't Corral. It was can't remember the name of the little town. It's one of the last McDonald's is with a gas station.
Was it Maple? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's north of Coin Jock, but I think it's about 15 miles north of Coin Jock is where it was. I can't remember the name of it, but they had a park there, and I spoke a little bit with a park ranger that was part of that.
Currituck.
And he never got back to us.
Currituck.
Yeah.
Around where the ferry dock is at, the Currituck Knox Island. Ferry?
That's the area, but that's not the park he's talking about.
It was on 160. It was on 168 headed down toward. I'd have to get a map and go look at it. I'll go look at it, figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm happy to take suggestions. I was just trying to run with the momentum that seems to be building within the Department of Conservation and Recreation for.
The state parks are really getting big on opening up their parks for star parties.
Yeah. Anyhow, okay. So I don't want to take up too much more time. And last request: does anybody have the duty? 2021 grid of events. Can you see that? Probably not.
It's purposely blurring it out. Interesting.
Now your camera is only in focus at your face.
Yeah, it's got that vignetting effect going on.
Okay. All right.
He's actually got blurring turned on. That's why he's doing it.
Yeah, you gotta turn your filters off, brother.
Yeah.
It's still blurring.
I refuse. So got this. I would like to get this for 2022.
What is that?
We can't tell what it is.
It's the date grid.
Why don't you share it?
Need a heater strip.
It's the spreadsheet that we used to use to keep track of all the dates for Skywatch. And
George, that's the spreadsheet me and you were talking about that you used to keep up. Is that what he's wanting another one of? Yes, yes, it is. George just showed me his spreadsheet, so I will get that created for us for the next coming year.
Bless you.
Hey, Bruce.
Go for this year.
Why?
We're already in this year. It's not coming anymore. It's already here. Sorry. For 22.
Hey, Bruce, Ben, I emailed John Schuchart, I believe his name is, out in New Mexico. I submitted the double star observation report, part of Alcor, but it was a 6 megabyte PDF because I scanned in all the pages. So have not received confirmation. I sent it to you as well. just now. And I also texted the number that had online. So I'm not sure if he's still the point of contact or what, but at least he's listed. So in any case, figure I'll let you know.
Cool. I'll look that up.
Okay. You have the PDF as well at your Cox, so
Okay.
in case it helps. Finally following your instructions after a year or two.
All right. I have deleted my filter for all you purists.
Oh, now we can read all your stuff on your shelves.
I want it. This is what I want. Thank you. Over.
Message received.
Thank you, Bruce. All right, is there anything about the triple RT going on? You know about anything? Ben?
No, I haven't used it.
I haven't either. I mean, I can pull it up when we're really interested, but let me see what's next. Old business. The only old business that I was going to bring up is what Bruce was just talking about with the Star Party. So we covered that. Does anyone else have any other old business?
I had forwarded Bert, our NASA point of contact, the desire of one of the new members interested in the triple RT, and he got it, and I'm not sure. She said thank you, so don't know if she's, I don't know her name, but didn't know if she ever got on herself.
Oh, okay. I remember you meant we brought that up. Was that the last meeting when we were in person, right?
Yes, yeah.
I don't
So
know.
she had given me her email. I talked to her and then forwarded on to Bird.
Was that
And
Rachel?
No, it was me. And Ben, I never got anything back from the gentleman Bird. I did thank you because I saw when you forwarded it to him,
Yeah,
but
okay,
I
there we
never
go.
received anything back from him.
well, I wanted to close the loop then, so we got to hit
So we
Bird
still
up.
need to get a hold of Bird, in other words.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes.
All right.
I'll drive to his house tomorrow and shake him up.
All right. Yeah.
Old school. Roll up.
Yeah, it's up and running. I've logged in, checked it. I've got points. It's easy to do. It's if he's the one that opens the account up for you. So,
Fair.
yeah.
No,
Let me
I was just logging into Skynet right now to see if it was up.
actions, resend email. I'm assuming it's still large W Taylor at nasa.gov. So,
Yeah, I've sent emails to that trying to get an account and got no response.
Same here.
I'm going to try sending it plain text in case it's being filtered, but
I'll be
All right.
I'll
surprised if
talk to
it,
his wife and she'll straighten him out.
all right. Awesome. All right, I just resent it plain text. So, and Samantha, you'll have your info copied as well.
Thank you.
Sean, it's probably, dome's closed probably. They're expecting snow there tonight.
Yeah.
it's-
If you log in,
It's closed. There was no information for it. That's what I was more concerned about. So I don't know what that means, but it's offline right now. is what
you
it
just
looks
logged
like.
in.
I am logged in. The whole when you go to select Fan Mountain Observatory is blank.
Yeah, they may have lost power too
Oh.
because
Yeah, maybe
Charlottesville was
that
hit
could
pretty
be it,
bad.
who knows? Usually it'll say something like dome closed. It doesn't say anything. So maybe they don't have a power outage right now.
Yeah, the power might be down. I'm
But
sure they don't have
they've been pretty consistent recently,
Any,
so I'm gonna say it's probably
supplemental
temporary.
emergency power on that thing.
No worries. Does anybody else have any other old business? All right, moving on to new business. The only thing I have listed is I know that George went and picked up the order, I believe, while I was out of town. So all of our apparel came in. Is that right, George?
That's right. I got a box in my the room with my telescopes.
Right on. So next time we meet in person, we'll be able to dish out all the stuff.
Right.
Does anybody else have any new business?
I've got a question about the R2 unit in Samantha's background there. Is that functional?
It's actually a cooler, and it is functional as a cooler. I could fill it up with ice and put drinks in it and have a whole party.
Yummy.
It has little
that
wheels.
a
He'll go
Pepsi
around with
promo?
me anywhere I want him to.
So
Like
that's
a
going
good
to hold
droid
us.
should.
Promo?
So beverages at the star party are going to be an R2D2.
I mean, that could be arranged.
We should have raffled that off.
That's
my
next year's
droid.
prize already. We know what next year's prize is.
No, that's more valuable. It's a selling point to the star party.
Rich,
Drinks
these are
on
the droids you're
R2D2.
looking for. These aren't the droids you're looking for.
So Jeff Goldstein,
Yes.
in February, assuming TCC comes, opens back up, we'll be able to get in there. You got everything under control?
By then, I don't know if I'll have an account, so I'm not sure.
That's what I want to
Maybe.
talk about, because you said something in your email. It's like, what's happening at the end of January? Is the Zoom account going away for the college?
Well, no, mid-January, they're talking about opening up the college for face-to-face, but right now, everything in TCC is online, everything. There's no face-to-face anywhere until the 19th. President's going to make a decision, the president of the college is going to make a decision the 19th. So I guess that's new business, but I don't know anything any other than that.
So if they go back in person, you won't have access to the Zoom account anymore, and then we'll have to use Rich's, because Rich said he's got one.
Oh,
Yeah, you can use mine if needed. Yeah.
okay, and I've got a private one too, and you can't go but 45 minutes. Do you have a one that?
Yeah, I pay for it, so I can go longer.
Okay, cool. All right, we'll use Rich's then, or Leah's, or Leah's. Leah's got a school account too. See,
Right on. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we covered that, because I saw it in your emails. Like, I wasn't sure what you were saying. Like, you were retiring or something in January. Like, we
Yeah.
weren't gonna have access anymore. What are you talking about?
right? Yeah, and I noticed Dr. Wright was here earlier, and I guess he's left now. I was going to recognize him. He's a celebrity, you know.
Dr. Wright?
Yeah, it used to be astronomy and physics professor there at TCC. So
Oh,
he
right.
came in and chatted for a week. He came in and listened for a while anyway.
You probably got bored of us. I understand. All
I
right,
probably want to see
well,
the presentation that wasn't here yet.
that could be. I guess the next thing we'll move on to the observing reports. Anybody got any of those?
I can bring some up. I'll talk for a few seconds. Not really current observing, but future observing, because I have a new project I'm about to be working on. I've been discussing with this dude in Germany. You notice I've been doing a lot of photometry on a star, VCVN. I'm going to share this real quick. He's been studying this star. This is a poster he presented at the IAU in 2021. So he's been measuring the polarimetry of the star, because there's a dust cloud in front of it. As it pulsates, it's polarizing the light, and it's out of phase with the cycles. And so I've been doing this star. So he reached out to me, and coming into this next observing session, which will start in February, I'm going to run multi-band photometry so I can get good color indices to understand how the light's being affected by the dust. And I'm going to try to recruit a couple other people to do real short time, because we're also going to look for micro variability, which would help us be able to map out dust clumps in the cloud in front of the star. So that's going to be one of my main ones for next year, along with the one I've been doing for a couple of years now in Sagittarius. So I'm excited about that.
Get that PhD, Richard. Get that PhD.
That sounds really cool. I'm looking forward to hearing about it. Anybody else have any? I mean, I'll tell you about mine. I had to go to Radford, help my daughter for the month of December, essentially. She had a surgery, so, but I did sneak away to go see the meteor shower, and it was awesome. I drove south of Radford about 45 minutes to where it was the darkest sky available in my area, like within hours. And the longest I went was 16 seconds without seeing a meteor.
Wow.
It was crazy. Every direction. Parked right next to an old cemetery. There was no lights anywhere around me. It was awesome. Unfortunately, it was all by myself, so there's no one to tell anybody. Oh, did you see that one?
Which shower was that?
Pardon me?
Was that the Geminids or the Quadrids?
Gemini.
Geminids were actually good even here, even with all the light pollution. I was outside for less than an hour and saw 7. Not as impressive as your count, but all things considered, it was still a pretty good showing.
Yeah, that is good, especially in town.
Yeah.
I was able to see 5 between that evening and early morning that day. Yeah, it's extremely light polluted where I'm living at here in Norfolk. So that's saying something.
Well, I timed it just right. I left the hotel and went over there. So right when the moon was setting, it was like 10 minutes before the moon set. So I didn't even bother when the moon was up, and then just stood out there for about an hour and a half till I got too cold. Anybody else though?
Not quite astronomical observing, but I was captivated by watching the James Webb deploy that secondary mirror, even though it was an animation. And everything's on track for a Friday, Saturday deployment of the side mirrors, the port and starboard side. So they're going to do a live broadcast of that as well. And once they get that up, it should be pretty good to go. Pretty impressive instrument.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the imagery back from that one.
It's really cool to see the where it lies on the spectrum compared to the Hubble, which is more visible, and the James Webb's obviously visible, but it's more of the orange red, and then the rest it goes into the IR. So it's gonna be really neat to have both those instruments live and doing all sorts of amazing stuff. So
One thing I'll bring up about Webb is, because when you guys know, I'm pretty passionate about pro-am collaborations, and there's a lot of pro-am actually with James Webb. So the AVSO has an exoplanet observing section where they train people to observe exoplanets, because one of the missions of Webb is they want to measure the contents of some of these exoplanet atmospheres. And they're looking specifically for water, which absorbs heavily in the infrared. Actually, one of the reasons you have to put IR telescopes in space is because water vapor in our atmosphere acts as a filter, it blocks it all out. So to conserve time on this $10 billion telescope, they want very precise ephemeri on the transits of those exoplanets. And so they have decent ones, but they're using amateur astronomers. Some with, you could do this with a 6-inch scope because some of them are pretty big and close in. And so they're looking for tight time series photometry of these objects to refine and get very precise transit time, so they know exactly when to put James Webb onto these targets, because they don't want to go, well, there's an hour that we're sitting here waiting for a transit. They want to be able to go, I know when the window is going to be, so I only have to spend 15, 20 minutes there. And over time, that saves a lot of time for the telescope.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the amateur component comes in, kind of a follow-on to TESS, which TESS doesn't discover any exoplanets. TESS can tell you where they think they are, but all the confirmation is actually being done, most of it being done by amateur astronomers. So I'll throw that in there.
No, that's
If you're
good.
interested, I can get you in touch with the right people to talk to of how to do this work.
Okay, I guess before we start with the feature presentation from Randy Reagan, is it Regan?
It's Regan.
Okay.
People say Reagan all the time, but it's actually
I
Regan.
want to make sure I got that right. I just want to remind you too, all the club members, to get in any articles you want to Rachel I'm gonna help her get the templates. She doesn't have the template yet, but we're still working on that. But don't forget to submit all the content to her. But we'll go ahead and turn it over for the presentation. I'll let you go ahead, Randy.
Okay.
I was going to introduce our guest speaker. I asked
Okay,
George,
John.
but
No,
Okay.
go ahead, John.
since you got, it was kind of a quick thing here, but he would probably never say all these things because he's very shy about bragging about himself. But Randy's a NASA scientist and or engineer. I guess he's an engineer. Isn't that right, Randy?
Yeah.
And he's retired just like me, and he retired just about the same time I did, maybe a little earlier. And he's worked for NASA, I think, for probably more than I worked for TCC, didn't you?
Yeah, about 35 years.
35 years. So he's got a lot of knowledge and background in that area as well. But he recently went to Winslow, Arizona and visited the Barringer Crater. And so he's got a lot of technical expertise via NASA. And I just wanted to share one thing here. Let me see, I can share this screen real quick. Let me see if I can find it. Where did I put it? And I have a piece of the meteor crater, courtesy of Randy. It's about a 1 inch by ½ inch piece of meteor crater, and it's supposed to be magnetic, I think, meteorite oxide. And I'll cherish that because I've never had a meteorite before. So thank you very much for Randy. So without further ado, I won't steal all of thunder. Randy Regan, he's one more thing. He's president of our rocket club too. There you go. Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jeff. And yeah, I've known Jeff probably for over 10 years now. And I've been to one of these meetings before in person and met some of you, and as well as met, I think, some of you at the moon experience they had at ODU. So see some familiar faces. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Can you hear me all right? Okay.
Yes.
Let's see. All right, can you see my screen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, my daughter and I went out to Barringer Crater, Arizona. And let me, we can figure this out. Just going to try to leave open the comments somehow, but let's see how to do that. Anyway, we went out to the crater, which is the first officially recognized meteorite crater. And it was very interesting. As Jeff said, I'm retired from NASA. So just some background. I was a program office chief engineer and the earth science directorate there. We had at least 20 projects going on all the time. So there might be some other presentations I could do for the club I think you'd find interesting. The reason I was interested in Barringer Crater was, one, it was on my top 10 list of places to see. And the other, the crater is in the middle of the desert-like area, so it hasn't really been changed much over the last 50,000 years when it occurred. And it's huge. It's about 0.7 miles across, 560 feet deep, and about 158 feet above the desert floor there. Let me just see a show of hands. How many people have gone there before? So I know. Okay, a couple of you. And it's to me, as well as what NASA thinks, it's a lot like what a crater would look like on the moon. So to me, it was as close as you can get to being on the moon. That's why it was on my top 10 list. And Apollo astronauts, particularly the Apollo 11 group, were trained there. That picture on the right is them being trained by a geologist. And while I was there, they told me the new Artemis astronauts will also be training there. And what they're looking for is just sort of the same thing, going toward a crater, like you'd be on the moon, what it's like, how to look at the different layers of rock inside of there. But as I'll show you in this presentation, it took a long time for this crater to become the first officially recognized meteorite crater. It's very exciting to see this in person. As you drive there, you see these kind of ripples in the ground, if you will. It's rocks sticking up and kind of in these patterns. And so it's like the ripples from a rock thrown in the water, but it's frozen in place. I'll show you a picture of that. And as far as where it is, it's in between Flagstaff and Winslow. So you fly into Winslow to get to that. So this is kind of a fun sign they have out 4 miles to impact. But if you look at the picture here on the right, you see this rock sticking up and some others sticking up. And then the craters in the back. That was kind of one thing I wasn't expecting, was how high up it was from the ground there. So they have some Apollo things left over. Here is Apollo test capsule that is there, and that's me standing next to it. And they have a really great visitor center there. One thing that has changed in the last couple of years is you can no longer go down inside the crater. There is a path there that has just deteriorated over time. In fact, it's called the astronaut path. And they just don't want it to deteriorate anymore in the crater anymore, and that path is just not feasible. One thing that was kind of surprising, I guess, just sticking up in the desert with nothing else blocking it, it was really windy with the wind coming over top of that crater. It's almost could blow you over. So just some history. The crater came into tension when some American soldiers found it around 1870. And this is really interesting. Dr. Gilbert in 1891, the chief geologist of the USGS, the top geologist in the country at that time, went out to investigate this crater and concluded that it was from a volcano. Part of the reason is there was no large magnetic signature you would expect to find if there was a large intact meteorite underneath, and also what's called the San Francisco volcano field. It's about 40 miles away. But when people asked him and said, what about all this iron meteorite material, like a piece Jeff has, it's all around the crater, he said it was just a coincidence. So clearly he was proven wrong. But he fought that decision for a long time, even when there was a lot of evidence so contrary. He kept saying it was volcanoes, from a volcano. So a person named Dan Berenger came along, born in 1860, and he was a lawyer by training, graduated from an Ivy League school. But he didn't find much interest in that. He found geology more interesting and going out west and being a mining prospector. So he took some graduate classes in that and looked at mines all over the place. And then he made a very large fortune on one called the Commonwealth Silver Mine. And that's the picture of him on the right. And so back early 1902 or so, he was one of the first people to suggest it was a crater from a meteorite impact. And one of the reasons was just by easily, if you shoot a bullet into the ground there at the desert or anywhere, if you look at that little crater, it looks a lot like this crater. And because of that, he thought that the meteorite, just like that bullet, would be buried down deep in there. And so he wanted to harness that or mine that iron and make a lot of money. So he bought, he used his company to buy the land around there. He knew the President Roosevelt, and Roosevelt apparently signed off on that. And he had a mathematician, physicist, that tried to document all the information they were finding and presented it to these conferences, but it was not well received. And there was about 30 tons of material that they had found by then. And so at that time, they thought the size of the crater corresponded very close, maybe half to the size of the meteorite. So he thought this huge meteor was down underneath the crater floor. In fact, that maybe it weighed over 100 or about 100 million tons. And in today's dollars, that would be about $1 billion. So he was, of course, very motivated to try to find this $1 billion worth of iron. And he had the money to do that. So he spent 27 years trying to find this meteorite, drilled a lot of holes and dug several shafts down there, even some even going down to 1,300 feet. But he never found something that would return his investment money. And by 1928, he had spent, majority of his fortune on this. And then in 1929, astronomer Dr. Moulton, does anybody heard of him? He was supposed to be a famous astronomer back then. No. He did some really the physics of what this took place and concluded that meteorite was a lot less, maybe 300,000 tons, and that the impact of it would generate enough heat that would vaporize it. So there wouldn't be anything there. And he published that paper, and then 10 days, and then published a second one, and by coincidence or just whatever discouragement, Barringer died 10 days later. And so Barringer passed away, never knowing if this discovery would be recognized as a meteorite crater. So here's a drawing of cross-section drawing of that. You can see the barrier holes. Now, at the time he was looking for it, they thought that the meteorite came down the middle and would be down below, but they did not find that. So another group that he was a partner with thought, well, maybe it came down at an angle, because if you look at this crater, it has a wall more on one side that is not completely round. It has a piece that sort of fell down on the right. So they thought the meteorite came all the way at the angle. So they drilled down there and still didn't find anything. In fact, the drill bit broke down there. And what they know today is the meteorite came in almost perpendicular. It's about 80 degrees. But Barringer and his group, spent a lot of money and published this map in 1910. And I know it's hard to see, but he mapped out all the pieces that he found around the crater. Some were up to 1,000 pounds. So he did a really great job of trying to show that this was a meteorite crater, but still people did not believe him, because no one has said officially or with enough evidence to show it was a crater, meteorite crater. This is the largest piece that was found in 1911 by a person named Halsinger. It's on display there at the visitor center. You can see it. It's about 3 feet long and it weighs a lot, 1,400 pounds. So after Dan died, the family continued to own the land and continued that area as a visitor site and research center, and they really have done a great job. So, but it is privately owned. So I'll show you some pictures of this. This is my daughter's a photographer. I think she took a really great picture of it with the sun shining down. And you can see some of the characteristics of it. This is a picture of the wall. It looks really strange. I mean, you can just see the different layers there and then how the rock is just falling away over time. There's another picture. As you take this tour, you go down into a part that looks kind of like it had been carved out. And probably Barringer's group did that because this is where all their mining equipment was, and they take it down there. So they kind of cut out a notch into that. And then if you see off to the right, you can see this wall of where they thought it landed. They have a nice observation. Dag, you can actually have a couple of these, but that's my daughter out there, and you can get a nice look from it. This is looking down at it. It's hard to see, but just the size. That was some mining equipment that was down there, so you can see how far down it is. Get a perspective on that. This is just some of the geography. I mean, look at the rocks here. These should have been lying flat, but because of the explosion, it knocked all this rock out, and these layers are pointing almost straight up. As I said, you can't go down there anymore, but in 2018, some astronomers and geologists got to go down there. And so this was a picture they took looking up along the side of the crater. So maybe you know this or maybe you didn't. But a geologist with the USGS wanted to look at the structure of the layers of rocks at the crater. And for the first time, they could now compare that crater to a man-made crater done by the atomic bombs, you know. So now you can take a real crater that was made by an explosion in the 50s and compare that now to this one. And the person who did that is Gene Shoemaker. So all of you know who he is. This is how he got started. So for his PhD thesis at Princeton, he wrote his thesis on the impact mechanics at Meteorite Crater, Arizona, and that's a picture of him there. So he was the one. He was the one that made this happen. So what he did was he found that the layers of rock at Behringer Crater had the same form and structures as the two explosion craters that were created in Nevada atomic bomb test. And see if I can try to explain this. They had this, what's called a structural inversion, where the layers of rocks have been inverted due to the explosion peeling back. As this explosion was so powerful, it took whole layers of rock and flipped them over. So if the layers of rock at 1, 2, 3, 4, he saw 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So that meant that was a huge explosion that would have to take place to do that. The other physical evidence he saw was the presence of these two minerals that had been created there. They're rare forms of silica, and they can only be created by high pressure, high temperature. Again, this something with this you saw at the bomb test. So he theorized that this crater was formed from an impact generating extremely high temperatures and pressures. Just like the astronomer said earlier, the impact would have vaporized much of it as it's coming in. The meteorite is called Canyon Diablo, after the canyon there. And most of it would have been scattered around the site, but basically it wasn't, it was such a big explosion it would have vaporized. So he published the results in 1960, and his peers agreed that this was the first officially recognized meteorite crater. So 31 years after his death, and 60 years or so since Behringer went out there. That was a long time. So here's another cross section here. So if you see the top right, this overturned flap, that's where they saw this inversion of the layers of rock. And they mapped out all the different types of rock there from Shoemaker. And this is something else that Shoemaker had as part of his thesis in 1960. All the different types of rock there and structure. So you can see he did an incredible amount of work there, and that proved to everybody it was the first one. And as you know, Shoemaker's discoveries continued. He became famous from this discovery, became the world's expert in meteorite craters. He went around the world and helped other people, other scientists, what to look for to identify them as meteorite craters. There's a crater in Australia that's called the Shoemaker Impact Crater. And as I'm sure all you know, he formed a new branch of astronomy called Astrogeology, and started the Astrogeology research program at the Geological Survey in 1961 at Flagstaff, where he was living. and he was their first director. And if you look it up, the building there is called Shoemaker Building. So astrogeology, as you know, is concerned with the geology of the solid bodies in the solar system, such as asteroids, planets, and moons. And NASA, we call it planetary science, and astrogeologists work in that program. Shoemaker trained the Apollo astronauts. That picture I showed you in the beginning, that was Shoemaker facing us, teaching the Apollo astronauts. He also trained to become an astronaut. He was going to be the first geologist. You know, who would have thought? It seems like you'd want to have a geologist go to the moon, right? So he was going to be the first one there, but because of a medical condition, he could not do that. And then Harrison Smith became the geologist that went to Apollo. And as you know, he and his family discovered a new comet called Shoemaker-Levy 9 comet, and we all watched that comet hit Jupiter in 1994. And this was fascinating. This is what I learned there. Just at the top. You know, because people thought that all the craters on the moon, on the Earth, were from volcanoes. Everyone thought that the craters on the moon were also from volcanoes, but he disagreed with them. He thought they were from impacts over a very long period of time. And of course, he was correct. And that's why one of the craters is called Shoemaker Crater. There's now 190 confirmed craters, and you can take a look at that list. And NASA and the scientists were so appreciative of his contributions to astronomy and science that when he died, some of his ashes were carried in a vial to the moon on the NASA's Lunar Prospector in 1998. And after the mission was completed, the probe was deliberately crashed into the moon. NASA does that a lot of times because they have seismic detectors on the moon, so they want to see that crash and have it go through the structure there. So in fact, he buried his ashes were buried on the moon. So they say he's the only person that's been buried on the moon. So it's fascinating that his career started with a crater on Earth, and his final resting place was in a crater on the moon. So I didn't know if you knew all that, but I found all that fascinating. What a story for an astronomer like that. So just some details on the meteorite. It was like 90% iron, nickel iron, about 160 feet across. The speed of that, you know, varies from what they think, from 29,000 to 45,000 miles an hour. I think half of it burned up in the atmosphere, equal to about 10 megatons of TNT, and about the rest really evaporated, vaporized, and leaving very little inside the crater. So I want to switch a little bit, just briefly, and maybe you already know this, but we have a local meteorite crater. While I worked at Langley, there were some scientists that thought the Chesapeake Bay was formed by a very large meteorite crater. This is around 1993. And then they form a project, calling the Chesapeake Bay Crater Project in 2000. And some of the reasons was the bay was just too large to be a natural formation. You know, all this area was underwater. It was all flat. So what caused this big hole in the ground there? But there was also a mixing of groundwater and salt water. That is, when people, well, a coworker of mine named Joe lived up in Gloucester, and he wanted to have a well on his property. He drilled down and kept getting brackish water. He ended up drilling 6 times and never got clean water. Unfortunately, Joe passed away at a young age and never heard why he always got brackish water. And what happens is, with such a large impact, particularly a very large meteorite, it will crack all the way down to the quartz level, put a crack all through there. And so the salt water will seep down into the fresh water and cause brackish water. So with this new project, they went around, setting off explosives on the ground and on boats in the water. And they measured those reflections back and got those disturbances and mapped it out. So because I'm sure all you've seen this. So this is the Chesapeake Bay Crater. So if you drive over the Chesapeake Bay Tunnel or the other Hampton Roads Tunnel, you can tell people that you are driving over a meteorite crater. But where I worked there at NASA Langley, they wanted some physical evidence. That is, they wanted to drill down into this core and bring up quartz to see if it really was cracked, like they were saying. So that was fascinating. Every day I go in and see them drilling there, and they would pull up another piece. So they drilled down to about 2,000 feet. That was in the year 2000. And pulled up a core sample about 700 feet down and did find this crack. I'll show you a picture of it, but you can see how much damage this meteorite did to all the different layers there and where they did the drilling. And you can see why we don't have any fresh water from the ground in that whole area. But here it is. Here's the core that they pulled up, and you can see it was put a crack in there, and I guess that's about an inch wide. And then over time, it got filled in with sediment and other material. But this proved that the Chesapeake Bay was formed from a meteorite hit. And then just the last thing, oh, here it is, just the history of it. But it's about 35 million years ago. It was huge, 2 miles in diameter. It's the largest known impact crater in the US, the best preserved wet target one. And the crater is about 53 miles in diameter and 0.8 miles deep. And some people always ask, what did a meteorite kill the dinosaurs? And I'm sure you already know this, but it was proven not too long ago in 2016 off of Mexico. What they learned from Chesapeake Bay, they did the same thing here. They went all around, set off explosions, and mapped out that the whole crater where it is, and drilled samples. I can't pronounce Chiclabib, but it was the name of a town there, and that's where they did the drilling. So it's named after that town. And the same thing, they drilled down in there and pulled up a piece that had that same cracked quartz. This is a huge asteroid, 6.2 miles in diameter, created a crater 93 miles. And it when they dug down and got that sample, you pull that up and you're pulling up time of how it fall down. And it corresponded to 66 million years ago, which was the exact same time as they call the extinction event, when all the dinosaurs died and 75% of really all plant and animal life. So that's fascinating that was just discovered about 5 or so years ago. Here's further links for further research. So in summary, I got to check off some, actually more than one item on my top 10 list because the Grand Canyon was nearby. So we did both of those. It's as close as you can get to being on the moon, and I highly recommend you go visit it. So see if you have any questions or some. Okay, thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Very good job, Randy.
Yeah. But did you learn something new, or was all this old?
I learned something.
I learned stuff.
Did you get any samples?
Only what Jeff has. Yeah. Just, it's what I find fascinating is, the dinosaur extinction event and the Chesapeake Bay crater are both very recent when compared to the Behringer crater going way back. So we're finding new things out all the time.
Yeah, I'd say anybody who's making a trip out to view the Grand Canyon, just do a side trip out there to see the crater. It's
Yeah.
well worth your visit. It's
It is.
it's an incredible sight.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still there, but if you looked at one of these pictures down to the very center, that one piece you see down there, I think it's one of the boilers from the drill when they sat down there. And around that fence, when I was there, they had a full-size astronaut that you couldn't even hardly make out unless you used binoculars.
You got a bad connection on your mic input.
Yeah, I heard what he said. Yeah, there is a boiler from the mining that is down there. You can see, look through telescopes. They have just a cutout of a 6-foot astronaut to help you see how high that is. And I told Jeff about this, but about 1960, some people flying a Piper airplane wanted to see the crater. So they're flying over top of it. And then they wanted to get closer. But the problem is, you think about the aerodynamics, that's a big hole and there's lots of wind blowing over it. It's going to be, create a circular effect of the wind. They're just going down. So they got too close and started to get pulled down inside the crater. And unfortunately, it crashed. They crashed their plane, but they did slow down enough that they survived. And they didn't have a way to get that airplane out of there. So they took it apart and dropped a lot of it down the mines, except for one piece of the wing. They tried burying it, but if you look, the guide will tell you, if you look hard, you can see that wing down at the bottom of the crater. So.
Yeah, the first time I saw it was on a Air Force flight from Randall Air Force Base up to the base at Las Vegas. And we went over at about 31,000 feet. And the pilot actually did a circle around it.
Oh.
And it did look just like a crater on the moon, for sure.
But well, those of you who went to it before, did you get to go down to the bottom of the crater?
It was open, but
Yeah.
we didn't do it. It was extremely hot day.
Yeah.
It didn't have the provisions or the stamina to do that.
So 1985, I was going cross country. They let me down the bottom. And I was also able to hit the Grand Canyon like you did. And then Lowell Observatory up in Flagstaff.
All right. Yeah, a lot to do around there.
That was pretty interesting about the Chesapeake Bay, the meteorite there. I was just kind of looking at that, one of those images you put up there, and Eastern Shore, I was like, why isn't that gone? It looked like it was just sticking right out there.
Yeah, what they say with a lot of meteorites that they come in and hit, and then sometimes create a point going up.
Oh,
like
okay.
that. So that must have had a point like that, and I guess over time, just the rest of it got filled in.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I had then. Appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very enjoyable.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Randy. Thank you very much for giving that presentation. I know I learned some stuff about the astronomer that discovered the meteor. I didn't know all that stuff, those facts about him. So very cool.
Yeah.
Well, looks like we finished a little early. Has anybody got anything else to add before we adjourn the meeting for tonight?
I was just curious, who got the best pictures of Comet Leonard. I really like that because my mom's family is Leonard, so I kept up with that. Who had some good pictures there, or saw it really well.
Did you manage to get any, Chuck?
Not a one. I'm unfortunately the when it was in the morning,
Yeah.
wasn't good, and then when it turned to be on the western side, I have a little problem with 14,000-foot mountains on that side of the horizon. So I went out almost every night looking for it and never seen it.
I did manage to see it when I was up at Radford, but it was hard to find. And I took my 10-inch telescope with me too, all the way up there, which was inconvenient to say the least. But it was still hard to find even then. So I don't know.
Well, Sean, hey, yeah, I did get a shot of it. I mean, it was like about 6 a.m. I mean, it was cloudy that night. I looked at the weather report and they said 3 to 6, nice and clear. Okay, that's my sweet spot, looking to the east. And I tell you what, I got out there at 3 o'clock and said, okay, I'm ready. I see some stars, go in the house, get some coffee, come back out. And here is this fog rolling in. I mean, thick as pea soup. I mean, it stayed until about 6 a.m. I'm looking to the east, no stars. I've got my scope pointed that way, and I see Arcturus. And I'm going, all right, it's like 40 degrees down to the left. I'm just going to take this thing and slew it that way to see if I can grab some. And you know what? Just enough of that fog lifted that I did get a shot of it. I mean, you know, it wasn't the best I wanted, you know, because, you know, you get, you know, a bit of fog and some clouds, but it came out, had a nice green core to it. And I did get some tails. So I was grateful to get it because my sister, one of her friends' husband passed away this year, and his name was Leonard. So he asked my sister to see if I could get him a shot. And I tried for 3 days. You know, the weather's been lousy. So yeah, I was happy to get it for her.
I think Jim Tallman got a couple shots of it, and he might have posted them on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I think he did.
On the group's IO, I saw quite a few good photos of the comet.
Yeah, Jim got some good shots of Leonard by M3 when it went by.
I missed that. I'll have to go back and look now.
Yeah, just another thing, you talked about the Webb telescope. When I was at NASA, I got to go, I would go up to Goddard every once in a while, and that's where they were assembling the Webb telescope. And they have a really nice room up there with a large window where you could look down into the clean room where the different pieces were coming together. And it was just amazing to see all these very large pieces come together. And I guess, you know, there's a lot of technology that had to be developed to build this telescope. Normally that you have a telescope that is fixed, where this one has all these control surfaces, you know, to have this matrix type telescope that had not been done before, particularly something so large. There's a lot of electronics, and they had a lot of problems to begin with, and had to solve all that to get it done. And they had to put the sun shield underneath it. I think it's they call it the sun shield, and that unravels. And just to give perspective, they used to tell us that's the size of a tennis court. So you can see how they had to compact all this into a pretty small area, you know, to go in the rocket and be able to expand out to be the size of a tennis court.
It's an impressive piece of machinery for sure. I'm looking forward to the imagery coming back from it. It's the highlight of the year, probably.
Oh, that's nice.
Good one.
Nice shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that from Jim?
I think so. Yeah, I think Jim got that one.
Okay.
I did. That
That's
was-
nice.
I did see someone posted one on my Facebook page, but I don't know who it was. It's not anyone I know.
It was a
But it was a
beautiful
nice shot.
It was a beautiful juxtaposition of the comet next to M3.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
send you that one, Randy.
Okay.
That picture was by George Concove. He posted it on our page. I don't
Oh, is that who it was? Okay.
As I say, I got this one sent to me on Facebook,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Nice tail.
but I don't know who this is. One of my friends sent it to me. They know I like astronomy. But yeah, that's a nice, nice looking one.
Photography.
All right, well, no one's got anything else? Hold on, I see some chat questions here. Oh, more comet pictures.
On the
I see
BBAA
Randy said that-
Facebook page, go to December 12th area and find someone posted a picture.
And what are the charts you're talking about, Randy?
The charts I just presented, if
Oh,
anybody.
in the presentation there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Okay. I'll send them to
Nice.
you, Jeff.
Okay, great.
I snapshot a few.
I wish I'd seen that presentation, and we went back there about 6 or 7 years ago, but I had been there as a kid. I was really into Apollo at the time. It was like early 60s. So all that, I didn't realize all that stuff was happening around there. I don't know when they built that visitor center, but it must have been pretty new when we went there. But it was an awesome thing for a kid to see. And the other thing we did was one of the dinosaur parks out that way. And you can't get better than that for a kid.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, there's also petrified forests at the end of the Grand Canyon. I remember going to. So there's a lot to see and do out there.
There it is. Yeah.
Well, if nobody's got anything else to add, I'll adjourn. Going once, going twice. All right.
All right.
Thank you all for coming to the
Okay.
meeting.